placed at the table. And we have some guest speakers. We're going to be speaking about Roseanne today. So, can you guys introduce yourselves?
I'm Jennifer, and I live here in Baltimore, Maryland.
I'm Kendra. I live in Upper Marlboro, Maryland.
Thank you, Ken.
And I'm Lola White, and I live in Alexandria, Virginia.
Thank you, Lola. Didn't Roseanne get herself into some trouble? Did you guys hear her racist remark? We're not going to talk about it. However, some people are not working.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think everyone pretty much heard about
Yeah.
about what happened to
What's your
with
take? What's your
Roseanne.
thoughts on that?
I'll start with I 110% agree with what she said was inappropriate. Should not have been said, and shame on her. That being said, I think action came down quite swift and fierce on her, wherein the rest of society, for some reason, action was not taken quite as swift and fierce. You look at comedians, and she claims to be a comedian. I don't particularly care for her form of comedy usually, but we've got comedians out there, Tosh Point, Jim Jeffries, very famous comedians that have been rude, crude, and socially unacceptable for years, and that is considered by some to be comedy. And while, again, I don't necessarily agree with Roseanne's comedy in general, I think the fact that she was punished so swiftly, and not so much, I don't mind saying that she personally was punished, but now everyone on her show has been punished. Everyone in her circles have been punished. I don't think that was fair to them. I think that they could have maybe replaced her. I think maybe they could have. I think it's a shame that so many others were punished in Roseanne's name, as well as the fact that I think today's I think it's a shame that so many others were also disenfranchised or punished for something that she said, which again, I don't agree with what she said, but I think it might have been taken a little too quickly and a little too to the task when so much of today's society is, I should say, at what point do we start worrying about every little thing someone says? If I say something that that you don't like, do I lose my job? If you say something she doesn't like, does she have to worry about losing her job?
I have to disagree with you in such a big way. Like, I respect you. I understand where you're coming from, but I have to strongly disagree. One, I think I commend ABC for taking the first steps because, like you're saying, so many other people are saying these things, but nothing is happening. But where does it start? So ABC has to be the person that they have to go, okay, here, we're not going to put up with this.
Mm-hmm.
And to the people that lost their jobs, I'm not blaming ABC, I'm blaming Roseanne. She didn't think about her cast and her crew, the camera people, the writers. She didn't think about any of those people before she made those comments. So I don't think they made the right decision. I think they made the right decision, and I think it was great. I was very proud of ABC for putting their highest rated show right now aside, putting money aside and going, no, we're not going to stand for this, regardless of what the issue is.
I agree, and I think that people get confused with freedom of speech as being free from
Exactly.
consequence.
Absolutely.
You may
I
say,
agree with you totally
so
about
to your-
free from consequence.
to your point of if I say something, should I lose my job? Or if she says something, should she lose her job?
Absolutely.
Yes, you should, because you may say whatever you want. You may do whatever you want. However, there's a consequence to everything said and everything done. And if your consequence is to be fired, then you should, in the future, and other people alike, right? They will think about the cameraman.
Absolutely.
They will think about the writers on the show. They will think about all of the other people who may lose their jobs or their positions for what they did. You don't want to be the one who ruins other people's lives. So if someone before Roseanne, Tosh, or whomever else had been punished, then maybe she wouldn't have made this mistake
wouldn't.
moving forward.
Absolutely.
This is a gatekeeper. This is somebody, ABC is a forerunner right now. They've put their foot down and they said, if anybody's going to do something about bad business, it's going to be us. And moving forward, other people will learn to never do that again. Or do what you want. You will be suffering consequences.
Right.
They call it locker room talk. So you got to be mindful of the locker room talk. You
Yeah,
never know
but-
who's listening, you know?
Yeah.
And my thing is that, why is it now? It's just, you've seen it in the past, it always catches up. They had people, a person before her, who made racist remarks, and they had I think, a radio talk show. And the same thing happened. You always apologizing. You never learn from what the other person has done. You
She
know
will
what I mean?
now.
We're like,
And I'm trying to be kind of a devil's advocate
No,
here.
I'm against what you're saying. I agree with you to some extent, but at the same time, it's just like, if this is my company and you work for me and you have other people that work for you, right? If you say something to jeopardize other people's positions, other people's jobs, I have to be the leader and say, no, that's not acceptable. I have to set an example. I have to make you an example so that other people learn not to say those things. That's all it is. She should have thought about other people, but she didn't. So why should ABC?
right.
And where is that line, and I completely agree, as an employer, I have every right to say what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And this is a broad question, is where is the line drawn between my freedom of speech and your, not you personally,
Yeah, of
but in
course.
general,
Yeah.
my freedom of speech and your right to not be offended?
But is that really freedom of speech?
Yeah.
You don't, is it? Just
No,
because
it
you get
is.
to, but
It
you don't,
is.
I think a lot of times now we're using that as an excuse to say whatever we want to people, but I think there's a line between, I can't just come up to you and say, you're an ape, you're this, you're
Yes,
that.
you can.
You could.
Okay,
Yes,
so,
you
okay, so
Where-
I guess that's freedom of speech.
Yeah,
But
Well,
at
that's
the
the
same time-
source. You know that, right? You know why the network let them go, well, Roseanne go and just had to cut the contract. Because they're selling a product. That show is a product. They represent them. So they don't want to be affiliated with that. She should have thought about what she said, thought about it before she said what she said.
I want to, can we, the one part that I started saying is where does the right to
I'm
free
gonna-
speech
Yeah.
and your right to be offended,
Yeah,
or not right
I'm
to be
gonna
offended,
say something about that and
but,
that.
okay, that'll work.
Okay.
So we'll go back to,
So with what you said about where does the line get drawn for free speech and your right to be offended, and you were saying, the thing about
People use
free,
it as an excuse.
yeah, so the thing about free speech is you can say what you want. And the thing about being offended is I have the right to care about what I want to care about.
Mhm.
So I think more of what you're saying is, when does what you care about outweigh my ability to be able to say what I want to say? It doesn't. These things are equal and they're separate. Say what you want, but expect for me to be able to feel how I want. And if my feeling is overwhelming and it has a multitude of backing behind my feeling, we're not talking about, oh, I don't like shrimp and you like shrimp. We're talking about blatant racism. That's not just an opinion of offense. There are hundreds of thousands of millions of people who are offended by that same thing. That is an overwhelming amount of offense based on your opinion and what you want to say, not you personally.
yeah, I was just
But-
because
and
I
what-
disagree with
Yeah,
what
yeah, I know
Roseanne
you
said.
did. I know, and I like what you said. I want to play devil's advocate, but at some point we are crossing the line and advocating for the devil. Stop it, right? And to another point, Wanda Sykes had quit 2 weeks prior. Roseanne has been trending with racism, and it hasn't.
Years.
Yes, and it has been recently very available. I saw a picture of Roseanne with a hippie mustache.
Yes, baking cookies.
Baking,
saw that
and not
this
baking
morning.
cookies. She had represented
Right.
burned people.
Right.
Oh,
They were
yes,
in the shape of
yes,
people.
yes,
And a
yes,
Hitler
yes.
mustache. You
Yeah,
are.
that's a little
you,
bit.
So,
no, all of it is extreme. So
No,
we're
no,
talking about
absolutely.
everything on top of everything.
and that makes me
Disrespect should
question
not be
ABC
tolerated,
though
no
in the
matter
first
what.
place.
Right.
Because that picture was taken years ago. So why did they revive the show? Yes, popular, yes, but she's been so controversial because that picture has been around for years, and they still decide to bring the show on. So
I think her controversialness is one of the reasons they
that she
brought,
is
because
what
she was
is.
famous, but then I think she crossed that line and they were like,
And like you said, they're selling the brand. Roseanne brand is so much money. It's so expensive.
Absolutely.
And that's why they bought it back. They're hoping that people
Why cut
forget.
it out? But you see, you can't.
That's what happens.
Because you can't. What's the saying? Leopard can't change its spots, right? Or stripes.
That's right.
So that's what it is. So when you bring her back and this happens, then what?
Then you shoot the letter. Okay, then that's what happens. So they say like, we're giving her another chance. Everybody is human. Everybody makes mistakes. This was an error in judgment. It was comedy, right? and then the leopard shows their spots, you lock him up and you shoot the leopard. You can't be back free. That's what
Spots
it
can be
is.
contagious.
No, that's true, that's true. So
Spots
now,
can
do you guys think though that a lot of networks who, not everyone has as much money as the ABC, where they can just cut a whole show just like that?
They're
What about the
number one
smaller?
show, too.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
it's a
So what
lot.
about the smaller networks where their number one show on their networks is making so much, these remarks? What do they do? Do they cut? Because when you go back to, I think Bill Maher is on HBO, I believe. I'm not sure. He made those remarks. He apologized, and now we move on because he's like one of their top runners. So what about that? Why didn't they cut him there and there?
And not only that, you know that a lot of the networks have cut her, and they've gone back and erased, scenes, that she's done. My thing is that you see this over and over and over again. What is it? It's just, I just want to just be able to say what I want and then just apologize and keep it going. No, right? What's going on? Well, ladies, it has been a very fascinating conversation, and we're going to continue to talk, but we're going to go ahead and take a break. Thank you. Welcome back. We're back at the table, and our discussion will be Bill Cosby.
You know how to pick them, don't you? From Roseanne to Bill Cosby.
There's so many people coming out. He went to court, right? And he's been found guilty.
Guilty, yeah.
So what is your thoughts on that?
Just gonna look down that
Just
way
take
for
it.
now.
Take the floor.
I think what he did was abhorrent, and I mean, I could try to play the devil's advocate on this one, but I'd have a tough time doing it too. This is one of those cases, it is sad, because I think all of us probably in our age, we grew up with Bill Cosby. I mean, he was, every day at 3 o'clock, you came in, you sat down, you watched the Huxtables, and it is sad, but I think this is one of those cases that can be discussed and brought into the Me Too thing, because it sounds like several of those women that came out against him were young proteges of him, and this happened to them. They were afraid to say anything for fear of their career, for fear of if you say anything, Bill Cosby's gonna ruin what you have, and he's Bill Cosby. I mean, who's gonna go against Bill Cosby? So they held it in for years and years and didn't say anything, and I think that also led to some of their discredit in the public opinion. Like, why didn't you say something 20 years ago? That doesn't mean it didn't happen, obviously. It doesn't mean it changed the feelings and the thoughts that they had, but holding that in, I think, didn't do them any service now that they've said something.
But you can't really tell someone when to. I'm not
Oh,
saying
agree,
you,
yeah.
right? But it's like I don't know. This notion of someone waiting too long really bothers me, because you can't tell someone when to heal. You can't tell them when to come forward when something happens to them. Everyone is different,
Right.
So I don't think they waited too late. I think it happened when it happened.
I think, unfortunately, they waited too as far as statute of limitations.
Well,
Ran
he
out,
was
so-
convicted for
one,
but then that's 30 years.
There's so many that he could have been convicted for. Were they able to come out?
Well, what do you guys? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I think most people get sensitive about this topic because they have a hard time separating Bill Cosby from Cliff Huxtable,
Exactly.
and from all of the really good things that he has done for the African American
commercial.
community.
Oh, right.
Well,
What
not
is
even-
Jello?
Why not even just that? Like, that's also entertainment, but he has raised millions of dollars for the African American community. He has done so many things to help African Americans feel welcomed in the acting force. We had A Different World from Bill Cosby, and you have The Cosby Show, and it showed African Americans in a good light in a time where that wasn't happening, and we respect and love Bill Cosby for those things, but then we have to separate.
Can we though?
Yes, you can.
How?
It's just like separating freedom of speech from consequence. We have to remain.
It's hard.
But let me say hard doesn't mean impossible, right? And if we're going to be objective and we are going to put people on a platform, we have to also be able to respect that those people are going to get opened up. They're going to be more vulnerable to our opinions. And yes, I personally can separate that because as a female and I work in male-dominated force and I respect people that I work with, when someone does something to you that demeans you, demoralizes you, no matter what other good things you've done, you've still scarred me. You've still done something wrong. It doesn't mean that he hasn't done wonderful things, but he did, well, he was convicted for something that was wrong. And we have to respect those people who've been through that. And although my firm belief is that not all of those women
Absolutely.
were
Of
harmed.
course not.
And I think a lot of
course
those
not.
women who were not harmed diminished that cause
Absolutely.
by coming out and
Absolutely.
saying, oh, well, he did this, he did that, but I did go back to his room another time.
Exactly.
They
Yeah,
diminished
exactly,
that
exactly.
cause. So even if one woman was hurt, that's too many women.
Absolutely.
So I can separate it. Bill Cosby did great things for our society, did great things for a lot of people. But if he did this bad thing, he did something wrong and he needs to be punished for that.
You have to take the things that happen and think about it, if his name were not on there and I were to see someone did this and this and this and this, what would my feelings, what would my opinions be? And I think for the most part, again, if the name's not on there, you'd be like, it was wrong.
So
That
can
was,
you separate the
Oh,
man from?
I totally can.
Yeah, so you can still watch the Cosby Show and all these shows and not have that thought in your mind, like
Well,
when you
like I
see
said, I
him
wouldn't
giving
think-
Jello, when you see him giving coffee. No, seriously, doesn't that thought creep into your mind like, oh, I wonder.
Yeah.
such and such. Or one of the accusers, or some of them were actually featured on the show. So when you see an episode with them in it, doesn't that creep into your mind and go, oh, I wonder
Well,
if
not
that's
to
when it
s-
happened?
Yeah, not to say that I wouldn't think about it, but I'm not
Well, it
going
kind
to-
of ruins it for you.
Well, I would agree with that. I think what I was referring to is I'm able to say, yes, we need to convict him despite the fact that he's Bill Cosby. It's not saying that, I can't watch the show, but I have to admit, if I were to watch the show, I'm not gonna lie in the back of my head.
This is kind of like related to the whole Roseanne thing about how she's going to open the door for other people to be punished. What happened to Bill Cosby opened the door for other people who are prominent figures in society to be punished, like Harvey Weinstein, because people had come out in the Me Too movement and they had a platform to speak on, people paid them attention. People like Harvey Weinstein now are going to go through the same legal ramifications and have to deal with the repercussions of doing things that were inappropriate.
That's true.
So I have an unpopular opinion right here. Don't shoot me. But where does the Me Too movement sort of turn into this idea of I had a bad date, so I've been Me Too'd? Because I've been hearing like Aziz Ansari. There was a lady that came out and she's saying she basically had a bad date in my opinion, but she blasted him. She put him, in the media. She basically discredited him, and all because they went out on a date. They went back to his place and they were doing some things and she didn't feel comfortable. And he stopped and she went home, but she felt really horrible about herself. And because of that, she put that out there. And she showed the text. He apologized to her the next day saying, oh my gosh, I didn't know you felt this way. So I think a lot of people are really taking the Me Too movement and just stretching it. It's just like what you said about
Yeah.
Bill Cosby, like all those women,
Diminishing the cause.
Exactly,
That's
right.
That's what it is.
So I don't know. I don't know where we draw the line, or do we draw a line?
Yes, you do.
You have to
Where
draw a
do
line,
you
yeah.
draw the line? Because how do you know that this didn't really happen to someone versus if it really did, or who's taking advantage of? Oh, I had a bad date. Oh, now I've been Me Too'd.
Well, I think it's one of those, you have to really remember here in the United States, you have to remember that we are innocent until proven.
But it's not
Guilty.
even in the eye of the public
Oh, and I
opinion.
agree, it's not, but if you take, and luckily, it's only about 8% of sexual assaults now are erroneously put forth or lied about. Most of them are found to be credible, and that's good, but think about any man out there, or woman, I guess, but mostly men. If I accuse man A of doing something to me, guess what? There's been no judge, there's no jury other than public opinion. he could lose his job, he could lose his family, he could lose everything to find out by the time the judge and the jury come around, oh, he was innocent. That
So it's
doesn't
too
help,
late.
that doesn't
Yeah.
help him at that point, so that's something
Right.
we really have to be mindful of in these cases.
Right.
You can't,
You know.
we can personally draw a line, but you can't predict how other people are going to react.
Right.
So like, it's just, I think it boils down to you as the individual taking a stance and saying, I'm not gonna feed into that, I'm not gonna spread that, I'm not gonna share that on my social media or things like that, because what you do is you just perpetuate a lie or perpetuate something that someone hasn't been found guilty of.
Right.
You know, because immediately I didn't want to buy into the Bill Cosby thing. I don't
No
wanna-
one did.
Yeah,
It's
of
Bill
course.
Cosby.
We have to do our research, I mean, if you look at, and this again goes to kind of the Roseanne thing, is people were complaining about Roseanne, but they showed a picture of Whoopi Goldberg with a picture of Trump blowing his head off, and it said, "Make America Great Again." That went all over the place. That was a Photoshop picture. Whoopi Goldberg never wore that shirt, but people didn't research, they didn't look, they saw if it's on the internet, it must be true. So we as individuals, in these cases of Me Too, in the cases of fake news, it's up to us to do our due diligence and our research as well.
Ladies, this is another fantastic conversation. But we're gonna take a break. We'll be back. Welcome back. Ladies, now we're gonna be talking about a topic that happened to a lawyer and,
The lawyer that was being racist?
yes,
That one.
yes.
Go ahead. Take it away.
So about the lawyer being racist, he was in a restaurant with the Spanish-speaking individuals, and he started shouting out all those obscenities. So he was being disrespectful by saying, everybody's in here speaking Spanish, and no one has spoken to me in English since I've been in here.
American.
Yeah, I think it's another matter of think before you speak, and there's a way to handle your frustration instead of being disrespectful, because he could have very easily said, excuse me, can someone please address me, and not talk to each other. And they would have spoke to him in English, they would have taken his order. He could have reported them to the manager and said, no one had good customer service, they didn't welcome me when I came in, and they paid me no mind. And that would have remedied that in the future for anyone else. But I
It was
traveled.
so common, it was just, they weren't speaking Spanish to him, they were speaking Spanish to each other. So he's saying that basically, if I speak a different language, I'm not allowed to because we're in America?
I think what he should have said, I can't even speak for him.
Because it wasn't as if the ladies behind the counter were like speaking to him in Spanish and that's all, that they were speaking to someone else in Spanish.
They were
He
speaking
didn't
to
like
each
it.
other. So what they did wrong was they didn't welcome him, they didn't have good customer service. What he did wrong was take their poor customer service and make it a racial issue. If he walked into Starbucks and there were all American speaking people, all English speaking people in there, and they were just talking to each other, hey Lola, how you doing? Did you have a good day? Blah blah blah. He wouldn't have said, this is America, you should speak English. He would have said, excuse me, is anyone going to take my order?
That's what he should have
Right.
said.
You
That's
don't
what he
see
should have
Spanish
said.
people walk into a predominantly English-speaking restaurant or something, and they say, hey, stop speaking in Spanish, help me, whatever. So you just have to have a line and respect, know how to go about
Right.
things.
But
Yes,
with that
ma'am.
being said though, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, does that give us a right to harass him? Because then I don't know if you guys have seen, that's what you were going to
Well,
say.
later I was, but good.
Yeah, no, because I don't know if you guys have seen all over social media and stuff. They're following him with cameras, and he's hiding under his umbrella. And does that give us the right to harass him and sort of shame him? Like, I don't know.
To the point of a safety issue for him. I mean, if you've got 30 people, all up on, you don't know, do they have guns, do they have cameras, do they have...
And then I think there were a lot of Hispanic people standing, I don't know if it was outside his building or outside of his job or his house, all speaking Spanish and just yelling
They
at
got
him.
They got
Yeah.
a GoFundMe page. to
Right,
pay
right.
for a
So is
mariachi band.
that crossing the line? Or, I mean, what do you guys think about that?
It is kinda funny, though. I'm sorry.
But it is kind of rude though. When customers come in, you should take your mind off the conversation and focus in on the customer.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you at the nail salon. You know what I'm saying?
Speaking
And then they
their language.
speak, yeah, they speak in their language.
Now,
And
when
you're like,
I'm
oh, they're
in
talking
the
about me, you know, and
No.
I know they are.
Now, when I'm at the nail salon, because I say, hi, how are you doing? And I engage them in a conversation. And if you're not going to engage me in a conversation, then we're not going to do business because I'm the primary here. I'm the customer. And that's what that man should have done. But
He should take
no.
the higher road.
We should. No.
That's him.
So, like, people make mistakes, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he was wrong. That
Yeah.
was rude.
And
It
we
was
changed him enough.
It was disrespectful and it was racist.
Yeah.
It was racist.
Yes, absolutely.
Anybody who does something racist should be
She turned the
ashamed of
situation
it,
into
but
a racist.
So I am gonna throw a devil's advocate out
Okay.
there. Why wasn't he fired and all of his assets
But we
taken
don't
away?
know that he didn't lose clients. Was he fired?
But
No,
his-
but we don't know who's dropping
But
him
if we
as
use
a.
the same rubric for this and Roseanne had her one comment and bam, the next day, all her
Well,
stuff
no,
was taken
she
away.
had prior
But we're
convictions
basing
of
our
being
this
racist.
comment.
I know, she had.
So maybe this is
prior.
just the straw that broke the
I
camel's
think that, I
back
think
for
it
her.
was,
then.
you know.
But we don't know that he didn't lose clients. Like I said, we don't know.
and can we be honest here? What's his name?
We don't know.
Exactly. You know what? He has so
Exactly.
much less influence
New
on the
York
world than Roseanne.
That's
And
true.
when you are in the forefront in the public media, like the president right now, Donald Trump, everyone knows who he is. He's in the forefront. Some things, sir, you cannot say and not expect people to say, have a rebuttal or want repercussions to happen because you're that public of a figure. People would see me right now walking down the street and no one would care. I'm not that much of a public figure for
Keep working
people.
on it, you'll
Yeah,
get
I
there.
mean, yeah. But for people to have an issue to that level, people want things done. But he probably has lost clients.
That's what I'm saying. I think so.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
so. And how do you, being the person that doesn't drop him, do you feel some type of way? Like, why should I drop him? I'm not Hispanic. He didn't disrespect me. Do you? Like, what about the people that do keep him as
That's
a lawyer?
okay. That's their opinion, and that's
true.
their right. And maybe they agree with him. Maybe they are all along the same lines.
Maybe.
When I walk into somewhere in America, you just
I don't like when this people.
Yeah, so maybe that's fine. Do what you want in your cubicle, but when you do that out in the world, expect consequence.
He took his, what should have been a Yelp review and just turned it into something else completely. And,
Well,
yeah.
bit him in
He
the
made
butt,
himself a
too.
superstar.
Oh, he
Right,
did.
an unwanted one.
He bit himself in the butt and said, "This is America. The American language is English and all that." It's like, no, it's not. Actually, you might want to, in your law degree, you should have taken
The widespread American language is English, but we have American citizens who speak other languages. Last year I went to Italy, and everyone there speaks Italian. But some of them know English. And one guy, he was joking with us, but he said, "You Americans are so pompous. You think that you can go to another country and we should just know English. You should come to Italy and speak Italian. We come to America and everyone's like, this is America, you should speak English. And you come to Italy and you go, oh, you don't speak English? Right.
He's,
So
he's not wrong.
exactly, it's our mindset.
Well, thank you, lady. This has been a really great show and topics, but we have to wrap it up now. So, any last thoughts? Any information about yourself that maybe you might want to share with our audience?
You go.
Okay, I'll start. Again, my name is Kendra Wilson. I am an actress, and I would like to thank everyone for the panel. It was a great talk, and I appreciate everything that was
Thank
happening.
you, Candace.
Okay, and I'm Lola White. Again, I'm also an up-and-coming actress, and I think we had a great discussion today.
Yes.
Different ideas, different opinions, and it didn't go out of hand, so I had a great time.
And I'm Jennifer Schultz, and I enjoyed playing the devil's advocate on some of
You
these
were great
topics.
myself.
Yeah, it was good.
Thank you.
Very insightful, though.
Yeah, and again, I'm Trevor Latrell, and thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.